I'm Umar Samdani, one of the co-founders of Be Brighter, and today I'll be talking about subject-verb agreement. Now, before we start, it's important to realize that subject-verb agreement is actually the most important and most fundamental portion of the SAT grammar. And for both native and non-native speakers alike, it can be tricky. But if you follow this process, it can be very simple and you can get every single one right. So remember that you always have to identify the subject, eliminate any distractions. If you don't know what these distractions are, I'll explain them in a future example. Find the correct verb. Remember that singular nouns always go with singular verbs. Plural nouns always go with plural verbs. And remember that the following information there is always singular. So everybody, somebody, anybody, every, and anybody is singular, in addition to the names of TV shows like The Simpsons, The Flash, The Arrow, any movies, The Avengers. These are all going to be singular nouns. So you would say, The Avengers is my favorite movie, or The Flash is my favorite TV show. All right, so moving on. I'm going to do some practice problems, but before we start, remember that these problems come from cracksat.net, which is an open forum source for anyone to participate questions, to propose questions, and to get questions answered. And if you want to get more practice, you could always go to cracksat.net for more. So let's start. So number one, the number of new bands from my hometown of Austin are astonishing when you consider that the city used to be much smaller than it is today. So I'm going to walk you through this one and then try to do the next ones on your own. But for this one, remember the process. First, identify the subject. In this case, the subject is the number. The number is actually a singular noun because when you think about it, this isn't the numbers, which would be plural. The number would be one number, making it a singular subject, a singular noun. Now, this noun needs to be paired with the singular verb. So when we go through the answer choices, let's look for a singular verb. So A, no change. The number of new bands from my hometown of Austin are astonishing when you consider that the city used to be much smaller than it is today. And before I move forward, let me go and delete or cross out this distraction phrase because it doesn't have anything to do with the question and won't help us in any way. So let's just eliminate it. And let's think, is are right here, is this a singular or plural verb? Well, are is going to be a plural verb. If you think about it, use it in an example. The people are amazed. The people are astonished. The people being a plural noun, you would associate that with the plural verb, and are is going to be a plural verb, as I said. The number is a singular verb, are is a plural, so this won't work out. It doesn't work. So A is going to be wrong. Let's look at B. The number of new bands from my hometown of Austin were astonishing. Were is just the past tense of are. If you say Mary and James were sad, you would be saying that they were sad for a while and then they stopped being sad. Now, this doesn't change the fact that it's a plural verb, so this is going to be wrong as well. Now, let's look at C. The number of new bands from my hometown of Austin is astonishing. Yes, this makes sense because is a singular verb and the number is singular as well. Those two paired together, it works well. Now C, or D, I'm sorry, is very interesting because, let's read it. The number of new bands from my hometown of Austin astonish. Does that make sense? In a way, colloquially, that does make sense, right? When you sound it out loud, the number of things they astonish. But when you think about it really hard, astonish is the plural form of astonish, really. But it's a plural form of this infinitive, astonish. And the singular version of this would be astonishes, right? So this would be wrong as well because this is actually referring to the plural form. You would say the numbers astonish, not the number astonish. You would say the number astonishes instead, but that's not an answer choice, so this is why D is wrong. All right, so I'm going to fly through a couple more, As always, if you have any questions, concerns, just leave them in the comments below or in our forums. We're always happy to help. So let's look at this one. Both the egg and the eggplant, which have very little in common with one another, is very versatile when it comes to preparing a home-cooked meal for your family. So take a minute to try to understand what this question is saying. I'm going to pause the video here and we'll come back. All right, so assuming that you've tried it for a little bit, let's look and identify the subject. In this case, the subject is going to be the egg and the eggplant. And these two combined make a plural noun. Think about Mary and James, Bob and Bill, the egg and the eggplant. They're all going to be plural nouns as an entity right here. The egg and the eggplant. That's a plural noun right there. So with that plural noun, you need a plural verb. So let's look at answer choice A. Both the egg and the eggplant, which have very little in common with one another, is very versatile. And I can delete this portion because, once again, it doesn't matter. It's not going to help us with the question. So let's cross it out. So we mentioned this, is a singular verb. Egg and eggplant is plural. It's not going to be right. Let's go to B. Both the egg and the eggplant, which have very little in common with one another, are very versatile. Yes, this makes sense. Are is plural. Egg and eggplant is plural as well. You can circle this one. Let's go through the other ones for thoroughness. Both the egg and the eggplant, which have very little in common with one another, they are very versatile. Ooh, so this is tough. But they are very versatile. What does that do? And we're going to mention this in a future video. But this actually creates a run-on. And if you were a native English speaker, you would recognize this like this, because the run-on is created right here, right after the comma. You need a period there for there to be, they are very versatile when it comes to preparing a home-cooked meal. Because if you try to say it in one breath, right? Both the egg and the eggplant, which have very little in common with one another, they are very versatile. It becomes lengthy and it becomes awkward to read, making it a run-on. That's why they are and C is going to be wrong. We're going to mention this in a later episode, but this is going to be regarded as a run-on or a sentence fragment. So let's cross this out. And finally, D. Both the egg and the eggplant, which have very little in common with one another, was very versatile when it comes to preparing a home-cooked meal. Was is a past version of is a singular, it wouldn't match up, so D is going to be wrong as well, making A our correct answer. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Sitting on the couch and watching TV was the best way Eric knew how to pass the time. Unfortunately, he couldn't pass 11th grade. Poor Eric. So once again, let's first start off by identifying our subject. Sitting on the couch and watching TV was the best way that who knew? That Eric knew. Eric is going to be the primary subject of this sentence. Second, eliminate all distractor phrases. Unfortunately, couldn't pass the 11th grade is a distractor phrase. We don't need it. Now, look at this sentence right here. Sitting on the couch and watching TV was the best way. Was the best ways that Eric knew how to pass time. Is ways singular or plural? Ways is plural. And because we can't change this verb or this noun, we're going to have to change this segment over here somehow. So let's look at the no change. Sitting on the couch and watching TV was the best ways that Eric knew how to pass time. No, you need a were here because these, once again, are two separate nouns, making them a plural. So this is wrong. Sitting on the couch and watching, B. Sitting on the couch, watching TV were the best ways that Eric knew how to pass time. Once again, we're going to mention this, but this is actually going to cause a sentence fragment. This on its own doesn't make any sense. Sitting on the couch, watching TV. These aren't, you need another list to create parallelism. This is all advanced topics, but this won't make grammatical sense. Sitting on the couch and watching TV were the best ways Eric knew how to pass time. Yes, this one makes sense. Sitting on the couch is a noun. Watching TV is another noun. This creates a plural noun, and the plural noun is associated with the were. So C would be the correct answer. To sit on the couch and watching TV were. This is another tricky one, but if you're a native English speaker, you know that to sit on the couch and watching TV, what does that do? This isn't parallel with one another. These don't connect. It needs to be sitting on the couch and watching TV, or to sit on the couch and to watch TV. So this would be wrong as well, making C the right answer. According to my friend, a coin collector, a number of people are seeking Liberty Head nickels minted in 1883. Now, this is tough, but if you think about it, because this underlined or this phrase after the comma stands on its own, you can delete this portion. This is actually unnecessary distractions. Now, what's the subject? The subject is going to be a number of people. A number of people is actually a plural noun. And now this is tricky because people is one of those verbs or one of those nouns that makes the entire phrase and the entire subject plural as well. So person is the singular version, people is going to be the plural version. Now, what's the plural noun going to need? A plural verb. So are seeking Liberty Head nickels minted in 1883. That's going to make sense because are is a plural verb as well, making A very plausible choice. A number of people, this is B, a number of people is seeking Liberty Head nickels. No, because a number of people, remember, is going to be plural, is singular. Letter C. Liberty Head nickels are being sought by a number of people. They were minted. Now this is tricky once again, but remember, we're trying to avoid awkwardness. Right here, when you create a there were, they were, you're actually referring to the people. The people were minted and the people weren't minted. So we're going to take that one out as well. Finally, the last one, Liberty Head nickels are sought by a number of people, minted in 1883. Don't forget this. It's almost as if we're slapping this onto here. And that doesn't make too much sense to me. Once again, it's saying the people are minted in 1883. People don't get minted. It wouldn't make sense, making D awkward and confusing, making A the correct answer. There's an alternative way to attack this problem. A number can also be regarded, this phrase right here, a number of, can be regarded as unnecessary as well. So you could take this out, making people the primary subject. If you keep the whole subject a number of people, however, that's still fine. Just remember that a number of people makes the entire phrase plural, making a plural noun, needing a plural verb. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Philip Ferdinand's debt, which grew rapidly as he spent frivolously on extravagant luxuries, were what ruined him in the end. Take a minute and try to understand this phrase right here. Try to answer the question for yourself. All right, so assuming you took a minute, first thing we're going to do is identify the primary subject. Now, what's the primary subject? Is it Philip Ferdinand? No, because there's a possessive here. It's actually Philip Ferdinand's debt. Now, debt is another singular noun. You only have one debt. You don't have multiple debts. It can't be a plural noun, right? So this is going to be singular. So you need a singular verb with it. Remember that this is a distraction phrase. We can eliminate it. So now we're looking for a singular verb. Let's look at the answer choices. Philip Ferdinand's debt were what ruined him in the end. No, because were, we mentioned this is a plural verb. It wouldn't match up. A is wrong. Was what ruined him in the end. Letter choice B. That makes sense. That looks the most promising because it's a singular noun associated with a singular verb. C, and ruined him in the end. No, because try to read that sentence out loud in your head. Philip Ferdinand's debt, which grew rapidly as he spent frivolously on extravagant luxuries, and ruined him in the end. That doesn't complete the thought. You're still not addressing what Philip Ferdinand's debt did in the context of the sentence. You still need that noun. You could have all this information right here, and it would still not address the question, what was Philip Ferdinand's debt doing? This is all descriptive phrase once you go to C. So C is wrong. Philip Ferdinand's debt, which grew rapidly as he spent frivolously on extravagant luxuries, ruining him in the end. This is known as a gerund. And a gerund, 99% of the time, a gerund is going to be wrong. That's important to realize because gerund are one of the verbs that go ing, running, cooking, swimming. These usually aren't assessed on the SAT because they don't have a proper way to associate a subject with them as regular present tense verbs do or past tense verbs do. This is known as the progressive tense. You'll learn this later, but it won't be tested on the SAT as a right answer. It'll always be a distraction. So this is going to be wrong. Sounding it out in addition will have you find that this doesn't make any sense in the context of the situation. All right, so that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, please address them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. And be sure to sign up for our Google form, which will be posted in the description. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.